Kgomotso Modise. I'm in for Clement this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's the third and final hour of the show, and we're going to be having our dialogue conversation in this hour. And we want to speak about crime. This is on the back of the Victims of Crime release that was released by Stats SA. Those numbers really shocking and revealing a big crime problem that, of course, we all know. We've almost all experienced the effects of crime, but also painting a picture about our attitude towards crime as well. And so we thought that we should have that conversation this morning around our experiences with crime. But the question that I'm asking you this morning is, can South Africa turn around or turn the crime problem around? It's an important question to ask because will we be in this position forever? And what can the country actually do to address the challenges that we're experiencing in our communities in terms of crime? You go anywhere in our country, and I can tell you that there isn't a single person who is not worried about crime. It's in the upped security. If you are rich enough, wealthy enough, if you've got money to spare, you are really investing in your security. If it's not that, it's the rushing in the Johannesburg CBD, in the Pretoria CBD. As someone who, used to work, and I still go to the CBDs a lot, you walk and you cannot just be comfortable walking around. And it's the, consciously or subconsciously carrying the thought that something may happen to you. You may lose your bag. You may lose your phone. And I know we even joke about it. Some people saying, when you walk in Johannesburg, don't say hi to anyone. Don't respond to anything. If someone says to you, hello, Sisi, you walk even faster. And that is indicative of our crime problem in this country. And the stats that came out really speak to that. And so we're going to be having that conversation. Crime clearly keeps worsening. At least that's what the recent Victims of Crime release report says. But can our country do anything to turn the crime problem around? And I want to take you through some of the stats in order to almost just paint a picture for, some people that maybe haven't been experiencing what most of us are. The report shows that, number one, 1.5 million incidents of housebreaking occurred in the last financial year. That's between 2024 and 2025. But I think what's even more startling is that in the last 5 years, 2.5 million incidents of housebreaking occurred in the country. That's not normal. It should never be normalized. The number of affected households that were represented, 5.7 of all households in the country. So this is 43% of the households that experienced housebreaking reported some of the incidents. That's not even half. That's not even half of the households that experienced housebreaking that reported it. And this is a theme that I want us to explore this morning as well. It's the fact that it is happening, but more and more people are choosing not to report the crime. More and more people are choosing to just continue with their lives. And as someone who's experienced housebreaking myself and reported the crime, I can tell you why people are choosing not to report it. Because you're almost certain that nothing is going to happen. Nothing. In terms of sexual offenses, this is one that is startling all the time. It features all the time in the reports. It says sexual offenses spiked dramatically, rising from 25,000 cases in 2021 to 73,000 cases in 2024 and 2025. That's just sexual offenses in the country. And an estimated 1.3 million incidents of theft of personal property occurred in the 2024-2025 year, affecting 1.2 million individuals aged 16 and older. So I don't know about you, but this does sound like it's a crisis. It sounds like a crisis to me. I read the part that speaks about feelings of safety. About 81% of those aged 16 years and older felt safe walking alone in the neighborhood during the day, while 36.1% felt safe walking alone when it's dark. So you clearly know that once it starts getting dark, we should all be in our houses. And it shouldn't be that way. You travel anyway. I was in France a few years ago, and being able to just walk around in the night, get off a train, I was shocked. It shocked me. I was so surprised as a Joburger that, I can just catch the train, at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. and walk, to the hotel, and I'm okay, and no one is coming behind me. It took me some time to realize that actually no one is going to come for me here. And I really, really want that for us as a country as well. So we're going to be having this dialogue conversation, and my guests for the conversation are, we're going to be having the Statistician-General, Risenga Maluleke, who's going to take us through the numbers and just paint that picture for us, elaborate on the numbers that they have found. And then we're going to have Richard Mamabolo from Pop Crew, the union as well, who's been weighing in a lot on the crime situation in the country. And we also have Professor Jacob Mofokeng, who is the crime and violence expert at TUT, who's going to be joining us for the dialogue as well. But I want to invite you to also weigh in on the conversation. 011-883-0702. That's the number that you can dial. 011-883-0702. Alternatively, if you'd rather send us a WhatsApp, it's 072-702-1702. So get in touch with us there, and I'd love to hear from you. In fact, someone here on the WhatsApp line has just sent me a screenshot of what I was talking about. It's a picture of a small street. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's a picture of Small Street, and someone here says, there's a message that says, when you are here, don't talk to anyone. Even if you see your mom, don't greet her, because it might not be your mom. Even if you see yourself passing by, don't look surprised. Just continue walking, because you know then that you'll be a target. And I think that is really, really concerning. All right, let's speak to Richard Mamabolo, and let's welcome him to the conversation. I see the lines are already flashing, and we will be taking your calls once we have a bit more from our guests. Richard Mamabolo, Pop Crew spokesperson, as well as Professor Jacob Mofokeng, crime and violence expert at TUT. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Hi, Richard. Are you there? All right. It seems we're having problems there with getting in touch with Richard and the Professor Mofokeng, but I do hope that we'll have them on the line. So I do believe that the big problem that we have now, I mean, we've established that, crime itself is a challenge, but the fact that people are not even comfortable or don't bother reporting it, I think is a challenge. I think that's a bigger problem, because it means we're not going to be able to fight the crime if we are not reporting it. I mean, does it mean that we've just lost confidence in our police? And I know that it sounds like a rhetorical question. I've heard people say a lot that you go to the police station and absolutely nothing happens. I'm going to tell you about my experience with this. A few years ago, we had a housebreaking at our home, and I don't know how the young man was found. It was one young man who was wearing slippers. It seems that's something that they use, that is popular to use, to wear, right? Especially because we were extending the house, and what happened was, we saw the marks of the slippers on the ground, and once we realized what was going on, we then went to the police station. When we got to the police station, he was caught. It seems he moved from our house to another house. And we were very, very happy that he had been found. I mean, police didn't have to go looking for him. So it was great that he'd been caught while committing another crime. And they had the feeling or the sense that he may have been involved in the housebreaking in our house as well. And we thought we were given a case number, as they do, and we were ready, right? We thought this was great. And I can tell you now that we then never heard from the police again. We went back to the police station to find out what was going on, and they said he'd been released. So we asked, why? Why was he released? And they said, no, there was just no evidence. There just wasn't enough evidence to prosecute him. I then asked, but you didn't come to our house, so how would you know? You didn't investigate. How would you know that there's no evidence? You didn't even try. And so I can tell you that I understand why South Africans at some point feel that they don't bother, or they won't bother to go and report the crime. When we come back from this break, we'll have our dialogue with our three guests.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
Welcome back. This is 702. It's the Clement Manyathela Show, and I'm Kgomotso Modise. I'm in for Clement this morning. All right, so it's 20 minutes past 11, not 11 minutes past 20. 20 minutes past 11 right here on the Clement Manyathela Show. Let's go to that conversation, our dialogue conversation around crime getting worse. And joining me for that conversation now is the Statistician-General, Risenga Maluleke, as well as the spokesperson of Pop Crew Police Union, Richard Mamabolo and Professor Jacob Mofokeng, who's the crime and violence expert. They join us now on the line. I want to start with you, Dr. Maluleke. Thank you so much for joining us. From these statistics, it seems as though housebreaking is fast becoming a crime of choice.
Well, I can't say it's a crime of choice. When you put it like crime of choice, it's like it's a luxury people can have. But one thing is that housebreaking is the crime that occurs the most in our country. And I guess there are reasons for that. Because housebreaking versus home robbery is that housebreaking occurs when there is nobody in the house. So it's like a burglary. Whereas home robbery, it happens when there's somebody in the house. So indeed, one thing we have seen over the past 5 years, we have seen 2.6 million incidents of housebreaking. But in the past 12 months, we have seen 1.5 million incidents of housebreaking, which affected 1.1 million individuals. So it is the top crime, yet it is not the most reported to the police.
And what crimes are the most reported?
Murder is the most reported, followed by motor vehicle theft or hijacking. So we have crimes at household level as well as individual level. So I'll give an example. Household level is when a car is stolen, whether it's parked at home or it was at the mall, it is stolen. Whereas hijacking, a person has to be driving potentially alone with other people on the road. So that is an individual crime. So let's go back to issues. The ones that are highly reported are murder, 100%, because it's shocking. Sometimes by the time the police, the family members, household members arrive, when the one member who was a victim was alone, even the neighbors have reported it if there was an alarm raised. But one of the things that follows that, it's motor vehicle theft as well as hijacking because of insurance claims. The third one is sexual violence. So sexual violence is the third reported crime. However, it's not as high as the two, and you will know there are still issues of stigma in relation to women talking openly or men talking openly when they have been victims of sexual violence.
Something else that this report...
So just a quick one, sorry. Housebreaking, which is the highest, its reporting to police is 43% versus murder at 100%, motor vehicle theft at 85%.
Oh, so murder 100%, that means everyone with this murder experience, they have been reporting?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe let's go into the issue around reporting, because this report reveals as well that there seems to be less confidence in police, in that people are not going to report with certain crimes like housebreaking.
Well, there are two things that people have said. Yeah. One is that about 29% indicated that they didn't report because there's nothing the police could do, because they didn't have proof to provide to the police. That is the one part. Another 30%, about 29% almost, indicated that the police could do nothing, whether there was a proof or not. It didn't matter. Now, one of the things that we have picked up in the past in the general household survey or in the victims of crime as well is that we asked people whether they had come reporting to the police. 45% of them said they have comfort. However, only about 29% said they had comfort in the courts. So you could see that people have trust in the police coming to capture the information or even arrest the perpetrators. But when it goes to court, it's a matter of technicalities, technical jargon, and the courts need proof. So you could come and accuse me or allege I've done something. The police will come and arrest me, but the court is the one that must decide whether I've done that or not.
And so the trust deficit is not necessarily in the police, but it's in the prosecution.
Well, I would say 45% compared to the courts. However, 45%, we're still not above 50%. So if you're not above 50%, definitely there's an issue there. But compared to the courts, so it's the whole civil justice system, criminal justice system that I think people are dealing with in society.
Yeah. In terms of sexual offenses, I mean, we saw a rise from 25,000 cases to 73,000 cases. I think it was 25,000 cases in the 2021, and now in the last financial year, it's shot up to 73,000. What insights can you share with that regarding that?
The one thing that we should understand is that women are becoming more assertive. Sexual violence affects women the most than it affects men. So women are actually more assertive, and they are shaking off the stigma in coming out public to report cases. But also the police, they have increased a lot in terms of their support to women and children. Most police stations have units that deal with women and children, understanding the sensitivities through which these matters have to be reported. So that is number one. The second issue is that when you go further, once women see cases being reported and there are prosecutions occurring, it gives them confidence. But I also want to touch another statistics. 48% of people indicated that someone they know was a perpetrator of violence. And when I say 48%, it's men and women, whether it's a friend, an acquaintance, a spouse, an intimate partner, or the like. However, when we went to women, only for a spouse and intimate partner, it was 47.3. Almost 50% of women said when there's assault, it's a spouse or an intimate partner. Whereas when you add someone they know or someone an acquaintance, it goes to above 60%.
I want to, take a look at consumer fraud as well. I'm seeing interesting numbers there. A total of over 500,000 individuals experiencing consumer fraud, with an estimated 811,000 incidents, and about 35% of individuals experiencing that reported it to the police. What type of crimes fall under this section?
Consumer fraud relates to people hijacking your identity and using it to access debt. It has to do with them accessing your banking information and or cloning your cards and the like. So with the society going more electronic, and where people sometimes use, they want to do online banking and they go to a public Wi-Fi, and such information gets harvested. So banks will always advise, do not use public Wi-Fi. So what we're seeing is that because in the past people use their data, but with Wi-Fi becoming more prevalent, there are so many people who do not know that when you are in a public space, you can't use public Wi-Fi for banking, because chances, and especially that the public Wi-Fi will also tell you unsecure.
Yeah.
So it means you are not secure.
Yeah. All right. Let's leave it there. That is our Statistician-General Risenga Maluleke helping us make sense of these crime numbers. We're talking crime today on our dialogue, and after the news, we'll be having a further conversation with regards to this with Richard Mamabolo, who's the spokesperson for Pop Crew. Hopefully, we can be able to find him, as well as Professor Jacob Mofokeng, who's a crime expert.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back. This is the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Kgomotso Modise. I'm in for Clement this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're talking crime. It clearly keeps getting worse. And the question really is if South Africa can turn the crime problem around. We just had a conversation with the Statistician-General, Risenga Maluleke, painting a picture for us in terms of the numbers around what the crime situation over the last financial year actually looks like. And I can tell you that he does paint a bleak picture. However, I do think think and I want to believe that South Africans can do something and that our country can do something to change the situation, the experience for us all, but also for our children. We truly don't want to live in a country where we are fearful and we fear for our lives. Joining me for that conversation, though, is Professor Jacob Mofokeng. He's an independent crime and security expert. Prof, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me, Kgomotso, and greetings to the listeners of 702.
Thank you so much. I mean, Prof, let's start with housebreaking, because I think it's one of the numbers that jumped at me quite a bit. 2.6 million incidents recorded over 5 years, and about 1.5 of those were experienced in the last financial year. I asked the Statistician-General if this is fast becoming the crime of choice. He clearly does confirm, though, that it is becoming very, very popular. Is that what you've been seeing also in your space?
Yes, I concur. It has been something that is persistent over the years, and also as well as, what research also highlighted, that, housebreaking has been something that, it's a challenge to South Africans, regardless of where a person, is situated. That could mean that, there has been, a study by whoever, criminals, studying those that are, staying in places of residence, their movements, as well as, the possibilities of when to come and having, their way into the houses. While, police recorded crime stats are available for early 2025, these statistics, that are provided to us by Statistician-General, highlight significant underreporting, particularly in personal property theft, which, indicates that 69% of victims not reporting it to the police. These statistics or these findings, they correlate with that of the Human Sciences Research Council, which indicated that the first national gender-based violence study, revealed only 3% of physical abuse, and, which is 1 in 5 sexual abuse victims report to police. These are just official figures, do not really capture the true extent of crime in South Africa, especially in cases of theft and sexual, physical abuse with low trust in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Kgomotso, what is emerging, it's a scenario of a mixed bag, of disparity between the findings of Stats South Africa and what actually exists in literature, as well as what Human Sciences Research Council provide to us. That can talk to low trust in the police, which
Yes.
a significant reason for underreporting appears to be a lack of trust, within the current intervention, as well as the response by the South African Police Service. But also, effective evidence-based, prevention programs still remains a challenge in South Africa. The functioning of the criminal justice system is yet to be improved. But also the ongoing crisis of leadership within the police. We know that, there is a commission of inquiry that is, on the table currently to be able to understand what is happening within, the South African Police Service.
Yeah.
But also, Kgomotso, the development of interventions in South Africa, to reduce crime is widely acknowledged as a challenge. Maybe because of focusing on law enforcement, over prevention or insufficient funding. We are aware that almost 50% has been allocated. We can no longer say that police are under-resourced or underfunded, because, Treasury has really come strong, in terms of trying to support, the budgets of the South African Police Service.
Yes.
But, but we look at these things as well as, a lack of cross-departmental coordination as some of the factors that will really discourage the public, and a lack of trust really to report. Unless if, like what Statistician-General indicate, that those that report, they are motivated because of insurance purposes. But other than that, people, they don't see the need to come forward to be able to report, certain crimes to the police.
So, something else that the Statistician-General pointed out is how while, more people, even though it's not incredibly more, would report the crime, the challenge then becomes with the prosecution and the matter making its way to court. And once it's in court, instead of the court being perceived as a platform where truth and justice will be served, it's seen as another hurdle, where people feel as though it's a lot of jargon, technicalities, people, cases go on forever, we've seen. And, you almost feel like you'll never get justice. And I think that's really at the heart of the reporting issue, where people feel, is there a point for me to report if we're going to see, like the Senzo Meyiwa trial, 10 years on, nobody is prosecuted or no one is convicted, I should say?
Yes, those are some of really of the factors, but also I think, balancing the Bill of Rights, remember, we will have to say someone has to be labeled as a criminal after, convicted, of a particular crime. But, bringing the balance between, those that have reported, crime as well as those that are in the custody of, criminal justice system is something that, we have to be informed, to say that people have got rights to bail and what are the implications of that, as well as, also encouraging the victims of crime so that they can be able to be encouraged that they have to be, be able to come forward and remain reporting crime. But also, the issues of what has been happening in South Africa in terms of lack of protection of whistleblowers, but as well as, people being arrested and tomorrow you see them on the streets. Yeah. This, I think there's still a need to be a greater awareness in South Africa in terms of how then do we balance, applying, law in terms of, looking at the interests of everyone in South Africa adequately, as well as, yet not really to make people not really to work with the police.
Yeah. Prof, let's speak about the types of crimes that we're seeing now recently over the last few years, or at least the type of crimes that are on the rise. I found it interesting to see the numbers on the rise around consumer fraud. It seems with the advancing of technology, the criminals are also advancing their knowledge and their skills.
Yes, indeed. Consumer fraud, if you look at, you browse social media, you look at, websites that talked about auctions, vehicle auctions, but, any other services that, consumers might be in need of. And how, cheap are these vehicles? You find a vehicle of 2023 in a region of 63 or 69,000 where, you will be encouraged that you have to bid before the auctions. And many consumers falling prey to these scammers and scams, and they don't report this because it's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And frauds such as, consumer frauds, these are where individuals, they find, embarrassing, and as such is thriving, in social media, as well as in other sectors where, people will often think that, it will be, showing the lack of knowledge on their side. But I think we don't want to learn as consumers or as the public to, when law enforcement is going out to indicate to us that, if something looks like it's true, something like, like it's so cheap and, we need to be able to test things before we can even make purchases, but as well as we need to ask around and make, informed decisions, shop around as well as do research, but we don't do that. And criminals are preying on our vulnerabilities, but also in a lack of consultation as well as doing. So hence then, such things and such informations, does not really reach the law enforcement. And eventually we see crime, not only, in terms of housebreaking, but in terms of fraud, in terms of white-collar crimes, because technology has really come for us, and it's got its advantages, but as well as disadvantages. I think that we really need, as South Africans, but as well as consumers, to be able to work with law enforcement, but as well as with the banking, industries, when we are told that we should not be, that vulnerable when you go to internet cafes and make use of, certain websites and make use of, our passwords as well as those things. We received messages, on our smartphones, and we should not, respond to certain links that are provided to us. So these things, they are there, and then eventually, if we don't report, or maybe we don't adhere to them, then we become victims.
Yeah. We're talking crime, the situation that keeps getting worse in our country. It really is an ill in our country. And we're asking the question if South Africa can turn the crime problem around. I'm talking to Professor Jacob Mofokeng, who's an independent crime and security expert, and he's sharing insights on that space, really. I mean, we saw those numbers in the victims report by Stats SA, 2.6 million incidents recorded over 5 years. These are house breakings, and 1.5 million of those happening in the last financial year. All right, I'm going to open up the lines. I'm going to invite you to call us and share your experiences. 011-883-0702. Are you one of those people that just don't bother reporting when you've experienced a crime? I mean, I was speaking earlier about my housebreaking situation and how I reported and nothing, absolutely nothing happened. Or do you still have confidence in the criminal justice system that if you do go to the police and report, something will eventually happen? Do you even have the stamina and the energy to see some of these cases through? Some of them take years in the courts. And at some point, people feel, I just want to, move on and let it rest. And I can imagine and I can understand why people would feel that way. It is so frustrating to see people coming into the courts day in, day out, hoping for justice, and they just don't get it. I'm going to invite you, 011-883-0702, as well as 072-702-1702. That's if you want to send us a WhatsApp. Prof, maybe let's try answer the question. Can South Africa do anything to turn the crime situation around? And I'm asking you this question because I know it's one that even our politicians struggle to answer.
I believe, Kgomotso, they can do that. We have an entity such as National Planning Commission that is there to be able to provide, guidelines to the president as well as other institutions, and how to work with law enforcement agencies. But it has to really come back also to the greater awareness with the public in terms of their role to work with law enforcement, as well as their knowledge, understanding, the benefits of technology as well as disadvantages, but confidence levels of reporting crime, it varies in locations, often reflecting trust in the local criminal justice system, but also, in their willingness to work. We understand that, there are other factors such as a lack of, political will, in terms of the government working with what is happening. For instance, look what is happening within crime intelligence, where the president has been really seen not really to be responding to that. So it can also affect the communities are really willing to work together with the police. But I think that they can, it can improve, if the communities can really come. But also the issues of corruption within, the criminal justice system, we heard what General Mkhwana has indicated that, it cut across NPA, the judicial, as well as the police. So such, issues can really demoralize the communities in terms of really coming forward to be able to indicate that, we are affected in this, particular area. But also the fear of police officials reporting, the victims to, the perpetrators.
Yeah.
That also, as I did indicate that, whistleblowing has been remaining a slippery ground in South Africa where, the government is not really giving us something that is tangible to indicate that indeed, that area has been addressed. So it remains a challenge whether indeed the community as well as the public can truly turn it, this tide around so that crime as well as victimization rate, crime rates can be lessened.
We're talking crime on the Clement Manyathela Show. I'm Kgomotso Modise. I see all your WhatsApps and your calls, and we'll take them all after this.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back. This is the Clement Manyathela Show right here on 702. My name is Kgomotso Modise, and I'm in for Clement this morning. We're talking crime, a situation that just keeps getting worse, a social ill really. Can South Africa turn the crime problem around? I do see some of your voice notes as well as your calls. Someone here saying, at this stage, we only report crime for insurance purposes. We have zero trust in the police. So whatever to protect or help in any way. The last time I reported a break-in, that's in 2024, I received a call for the officer in charge asking me to provide surveillance recording. I don't have a surveillance camera, so this means they are even lazy to pretend to conduct an investigation. A day later, I received an SMS stating the case was closed. And this is a reality that many South Africans go to. The truth there that you only report for insurance purposes, I think, is one that can be shared by many. All right, let's go to Sam. You're in Joburg. You say state capture also contributes to the crime issue. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. State capture cause problem because people are found right-handed stealing, but they still be given bail. They still be given bail. And also, I trusted my president very, very much, President Cyril Ramaphosa. I trusted him because he comes from the foundation where Freedom Charter said the people shall govern.
Yeah.
In an Eastern Cape, an old lady of 104 years old was raped and killed. I've never heard my president talking about it, a senior citizen of our country. Old man, old lady, 104 years old, was raped and killed. I've never heard my president talking about crime in this country. He never spoke about it. He's just flattering everything. He never becomes serious as we trusted him. The Freedom Charter said the people shall govern. We are not governing. We've been governed, And
as a result, Sam, do you think that, the police minister and the departments also then don't take it seriously from what you're seeing from the commander-in-chief, so to speak?
Look, if the commander-in-chief sees that they don't take it serious, he must have a whip and whip them. He's the one who's in charge. Because in the world, in England, anywhere in the world, when there's a crime of an old lady like that, they rape and kill, the newspaper, the radio, everything will be published. It will be all over the show, talking about it, making people aware. Here, crime happened, it's been put under the carpet.
Yeah.
Serious crime. I'm talking about an old lady in the Institute. You can Google that.
Yeah. Sam, thank you so much for that call. A real situation there. If the president doesn't speak about it, can you really have any confidence in him and his cabinet? All right. This is our conversation on crime, and it keeps getting worse, it seems, from the statistics. We've been speaking to Professor Jacob Mofokeng, who's an independent crime and security expert. We have, however, run out of time. I want to thank you so much, Prof, for your insights, and thank you so much for your calls as well as your WhatsApps right here on the Clement Manyathela Show.